Hello everyone, welcome to the Dreams Unlimited Travel Podcast. My name is John Magi.
And I'm Kevin Close.
And in this episode, we're going to tell you about Adventures by Disney group adventures, private group adventures. We talked about these on previous shows. We kind of gave quick overviews of them. But now that we have a little experience with pricing them and talking to Adventures by Disney about them, we feel like we have a little more insight we can share with you and a little more sort of depth of information. All right, I'm going to start with reading the boilerplate stuff that Adventures by Disney has provided us for these private group adventures, and we can then go from there. Explore a new way to travel in 2021 and 2022 and see the world with your family on a hand-picked group of travelers by your side. The new private adventures from Adventures by Disney can accommodate up to 12 guests, providing your group with an intimate way to enjoy immersive and authentic experiences, along with the insider access you anticipate from an Adventures by Disney vacation. Adventures by Disney is currently offering these expertly crafted private adventures for 5 countries, with departure dates beginning April of 2021. These itineraries include a mix of fan-favorite activities from previous group trips, as well as a few new experiences. All right, so before we go a little bit further, let me tell you what the 5 trips are that they're offering these private adventures for: Costa Rica, Egypt, Greece, Italy, and Peru. Egypt seems to be the most popular. Everybody's excited about putting together a private adventure for Egypt. But of course, Costa Rica, Italy, Greece, Peru, these are all sort of their top popular trips.
The other reason is a lot of the Adventures by Disney trips have sold out. The Egypt trips have sold out.
Yep, there's a way for people to actually get to Egypt with Adventures by Disney because you can't book one of the other trips. One of the parameters of these private adventures is they have to be booked within a certain date range. For Costa Rica, it's April 1st of 2021 through March 31st of 2022. Egypt, April 6th of 2021 to March 29th of 2022. Greece, April 20th of 2021 to October 31st of 2021. Italy, April 1st of 2021 through December 31st of 2021. And Peru, April 1st of 2021 to December 24th of 2021. One of the things we have found out is that this end date is the end date that the adventure has to stop. So for Italy, your adventure has to end on December 31st, 2021. It's not like you can start a few days before that.
Yeah, they don't wrap around.
You had a guest.
Those are hard and fast end dates.
Yep. You had a guest who wanted to do that, who wanted to start a few days before the end date and see if they can go. But no, these are the adventures must end by this date in order to book them. Also, there are no specific dates for these. These are not date specific like you'll find with other Adventures by Disney trips, where you might say, okay, in June, here are my choices for Italy. The dates are to some extent wide open. What is the caveat of that?
For certain countries, the adventure has to start on a certain day of the week. And I have a feeling that's because they have vendors who are set up and contracted for days of the week, so those things are already there. For instance, the trip might have to start on a Tuesday.
Right, so there are a little bit of complications in this. It's not just like, oh, look, I want to leave on Sunday, whatever that is, in June, and let's just go. You have to take that into consideration. A couple of things we want you to know, too, is that these have no minimum age requirement, so guests of all ages are welcome to join in the fun. Obviously, there might be some adult activities that involve wine tasting and things like that the kids wouldn't do. But in general, most trips nowadays have a minimum age of at least 4 or 6 for a child, and that's just not part of these private groups. And what about tour guides? What about adventure guides on these?
Where a regular adventure would have 2 tour guides, these will have 1 tour guide who will travel with you. In each individual stop on the trip, you might have a step-on guide who's familiar with that city's history, but they're usually only with the adventure for that day. The other thing is, on a regular adventure, that there are adult activities, and one of the guides would usually handle the adult activities. Let me give you an example. If you were going to the Louvre, the two tour guides would break off, and one group, the adult group, would go tour the Louvre. The group that the children on our trip would go with the other guide, and they do a junior art detective.
Oops.
They do a junior art detective adventure.
Scavenger hunt.
A scavenger hunt thing. The last time we were there, they all went running through the Louvre back and forth. It was fun.
So on these adventures, the kids kind of have to do what the adults are doing. There's no extra guide for that. Want to let you know too, while these mimic the set and already released trips, there's going to be some differences. So they are not saying that these are the exact same trip. For example, for an Italy trip, there is a private nighttime tour of the Vatican on the regular Italy Adventures by Disney trip. That is not included in the private adventures. My guess is that you have to set up a certain minimum number of people to secure one of these groups, so that's why it's easier to do with a large number of people and not if, say, there's only 4 or 6 people in a group. However, that's not to say that something like that couldn't be arranged when you get there. It's just not part of the itinerary as it's listed now. So things like that we want you to keep in mind. You want to do the research. You want to look at these private adventures and see what is involved and what is included in them. It's going to be most of the stuff that's in a regular adventure, but some things might be different.
Something else to keep in mind is that these adventures are fairly well planned. There's not a lot of room for personalization. This isn't where you get to decide what you want to do on each day. Your days are planned. The guides have timelines and things like that. There's some flexibility, but for the most part, you are booking a pre-existing itinerary.
Yeah, what happened was we had one client who said they wanted to do one of these private adventures, and she wanted to change everything and have everything the way she wanted it. The day's different and the activity's different, and that's not what this is. This isn't a bespoke trip that you can put together and
Right.
Do it to exactly to your liking. You're still going to follow the itinerary that Adventures by Disney has for you.
Yes.
Just the way it is, just the way it's going to be. I think, one of the nice things is that Adventures by Disney has looked at some of the concerns traveling under COVID and have figured out that, it's going to be difficult with larger groups of people traveling together. Things like transportation might not be right, might not be safe. Everybody crammed into a bus. Things like, going to a restaurant, they had to take that into consideration. So this is part of their answer to that for folks who are concerned about it, but also for safety, it's a lot easier to travel with your family than, with 40 people. And, you might have, instead of being on a big bus with people, you might get your own van if there's just 4 of you. So I think that's part of why Disney has come up with these trips. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea for them to try to make sure that they can still run these trips or get people to take these trips in a different way.
It's still a concierge trip. It's just in a smaller group. They're very similar to the regular group, except it's going to be just the people that you choose.
Same accommodations, same great, 4 and 5 star hotels that they always go to. You get that Adventures by Disney access to things. Disney opens the doors to many things, front of the line access to stuff. You have a guide who will, make sure that you get into places first and get to see things right away. So all of that's really great stuff. Why are you smirking?
No reason.
All right. I think he's smirking. All right. Now we're going to talk about pricing. That's what fell on the floor. So pardon me while I pick up my pricing sheets.
I'll talk while he's straightening. We are wearing microphones to record the show, and we have a little girl dog named Sophie, and Sophie is fascinated that John and I are attached to these wires. She is just mesmerized by it.
I'm waiting for her to yank one.
Exactly.
For us to go flying.
She's going to grab one and run with it.
Across the floor. All right, so we're going to talk about some pricing, which is what everybody wants to know. However, there is a lot of caveats involved in the pricing I'm going to give you. The pricing Adventures by Disney gave us, and is actually on their website, is first of all, opening day, quote unquote, pricing. So you had to book right away for that. The second is that depends on when you're going to travel, how many people are in your group travel, and then other things are involved as well. Sort of the unknown factor, which is what you found out with one trip.
What I would tell you is that this is a guideline. This is not a quote. Depending on what day you want to leave and what month you want to leave and how many people are in your party, all of these things can affect your adventure. Now, if you're booking what I call, a regular adventure, the prices are listed. The price goes up as that trip begins to fill, but you call up, you book the date, and you are ready. With these are much more handcrafted. The way this works is you suggest the date you want, the ABD asks for a couple of dates, and then what happens is I have to go to ABD and see if they can put this adventure together for this date. That means get a guide, that means the vendors all have to, the hotels have to have room, because regular adventures are booked 18 months in advance. These are being booked in travel terms kind of last minute. They are now going to sort of build this adventure for you. So it's a much more handcrafted experience. None of it is fast.
That is a good way to put it. That's also why these are not available in our online calculator.
Right.
If you go to our site, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, and click on Adventures by Disney and get a quote, you will be brought to a calculator where you can put in a trip, your number of people traveling, the specific date, and it will give you a quote based on the pricing we have from Disney and including our Adventures by Disney discount that's built into every trip. For these, it's just too complex and there are too many variables to put it in that format. So we will have to provide you with a quote. You know, if you want to go to your agent or Kevin at Dreams Unlimited Travel if you're interested in these. But I want to read some pricing to you, again, with all of those caveats built in that this isn't the exact price or may not be the exact price you
Yeah, we're
find.
not guaranteeing these.
Right. This is more of a, do I think I can afford this with my family piece of information. So I'm going to start with Costa Rica, one of Disney's most popular trips that they have. Again, depending on the dates you travel, I'm going to give you the price for April 1st through April 30th of 2021. A single traveler price is listed as $9,489. Just one person wants to go on this trip, that's the price listed for those date ranges. You get 2 to 3 people on the trip, $5,539 per person adult. There's a slightly lower price for children, but that's the per person adult price for 2 to 3 people. There's prices for 4 to 5, 6 to 7 people. The cheapest price will be 8 to 12 people. And for this trip, $4,199 per person, 8 to 12 people traveling, adult pricing. Another one I want to read you is, again, we talked about, I don't know where it is. Wait, it's all the way under me. That's a pretty shot, isn't it? Is Egypt. This, again, a very popular trip. A lot of people are doing these private adventures for Egypt for all the reasons we mentioned. Excuse me. No date-specific pricing on this. Again, reference pricing, single traveler, Egypt, $18,919 for one person. 2 people, $11,829 per person, adult pricing. And 8 to 12 people, $9,479 per person, adult pricing. And again, there's different pricings within that structure as well. So that's more of a, hey, I'd like to go to Egypt by myself. Can I afford it? Here's the number you should have in your head to see if it's even something to consider.
One of the reasons Egypt is popular is because the traditional ABDs that were released for this year, most Egypt trips are full. Now, I do need to talk about trips in April. These all start at the beginning of April. ABD has been following sort of a, I don't know how to put it, a cancellation schedule. Yeah. And what that is right now all ABD trips through March 31st. March 31st are canceled. They are not canceled for April as of yet. But historically over the last year, what happens is ABD sends out a notice that the next month can start moving their trips. Meaning if you don't want to travel in April of this year, ABD is allowing you to move your trip without penalty. Most of March's trips didn't have to be canceled by ABD because people had moved them. So the trips were empty and there's no way a trip with 1 or 2 people is going to go. April guests right now have the ability to move their trips without penalty. That's usually the precursor to ABD canceling trips. I will tell you that I am in the most doubt about international trips. I know ABD is working towards taking some domestic trips and having them launch, but one of their most popular domestic trips is Backstage Magic, and currently Disneyland is closed. So I would assume
with no indication
of when it's going to open.
Yeah.
So we're still up in the air about April. I have a greater hope for success about these later in the year, but
yeah. Something to consider if you want these private adventures. It might be a little bit better to think about a little further down the road than April or May. You know, while things are still up in the air, we all hope things get better over the summer. So it's something to certainly consider. We are pretty sure that the terms and conditions of these private adventures are the same as any other Adventures by Disney vacation.
Right now, if you book an adventure prior to the end of March 2021, your deposit is fully refundable up until 90 days prior to departure. I believe that's the same policy for these. Again, these have been fairly fluid. They announced these and they're still dealing with, can they go, can they not go? So it's one of those things that the details we can work out. These are great. I've been booking Adventures by Disney for a long time. And one of the things I hear frequently is my spouse doesn't like the idea of group travel. Well, this is the solution to that. The only people you're traveling with are the people you've chosen to travel with.
Yep.
And this could be a family. It could also be a group of friends who put themselves together and travel that way. You can make this your travel family any way you want.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, it doesn't just have to be immediate family. It can be anybody around you to do it. I think one of the things that's going to be a benefit for this, in addition to the safety factor of not being around a whole bunch of people together and things like that, is that I think you're going to be able to move a little bit easier.
No, definitely.
You know, when you're traveling with 30 or 40 people, you know, bathroom breaks take forever. And getting on and off a bus can take a while. So I think you're going to have a little more fluidity there.
A little more flexibility in that also.
And make things a lot smoother.
And you can schedule your bathroom breaks this way. It's hard to do when there's 35 people.
That is true. That is true. So we hope you consider one of these private adventures from Adventures by Disney. A new way to look at traveling, a new way to consider going to some place you've maybe not considered before, Egypt or Costa Rica.
Peru.
Mm-hmm. And again, these are the most popular trips that Adventures by Disney has, so it's excellent that this is where they started, and maybe they'll take on other trips as well.
I agree. I think the Greece one sounds fun this way.
Agreed. All right, that'll do it. We thank you very much for listening and watching. Thank you, Kevin, for helping me with the Adventures by Disney vacation information.
Kevin at Dreams Unlimited Travel.
If you have a Dreams Unlimited travel agent already, please contact them directly. If you don't, please contact Kevin at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, and he would be happy to help you. That's it. We really appreciate you joining us, and we hope you have a great week, and we hope you have a great vacation.